Welcome to class as we continue our discussion on the course Microeconomics. And today we'll be talking about consumer behavior. And this module will try to look into how individuals make choices to maximize their satisfaction given limited resources. And we'll be able to cover fundamental concepts like utility, indifference curve, budget constraints, which is also known as budget line, and the income and substitution effect, providing insight into consumer decision making. And when we talk about utility, we look at majorly satisfaction. And utility refers to the satisfaction, benefits, or pleasure derived from consuming goods and services. So this is actually the satisfaction, the benefit, the pleasure that is derived from taking or consuming a particular goods or services. For example, now, if perhaps you are coming from a very hot sun and you are very tasty, and the number of cups of water it will take you to get satisfied is actually the utility we are talking about. And since utility is subjective, it differs across individuals based on tastes, culture, income, and context. So some people would actually take just a bottle of Pepsi and they will be okay, while some will have to take as much as possible until they get satisfied with it. So it differs according to across individuals. And economists use utility to model how rational consumers make decisions about allocating their limited resources, usually income, among various competing goods and services to maximize satisfaction. And the utility cannot be measured, but it can actually be in absolute terms. Uh, it is sorry, it's though it cannot be measured in absolute time, it can you can actually see them in two approaches. And for the first one, we have the cardinal utility. This approach assumes that utility can be measured in absolute numbers, and such as in utils. It suggests that one can say, for example, this good gives me 10 utils of satisfaction, allowing for precise comparison. However, this is considered unrealistic since satisfaction is subjective and hard to quantify. And for the ordinal utility, this is more realistic and widely accepted approach assumes that consumers can rank their preferences but not measure them precisely as against cardinal utility. And for example, a person may prefer tea over coffee but cannot say by how many units of satisfaction. It focuses on the order of preferences rather than their magnitudes. And we also have the types of utility. We have the total utility. The total utility actually deals with the total satisfaction from consuming a certain number of utility of a goods. And it is generally, TU generally increases with consumption, but may eventually decline. It's based on consumption. So you can continue, like the more you drink the water, the total utility you derive may begin to increase, but it gets to a time that it begins to decline. And for example, eating pizza slice one, you actually took 20 utils, slice two, 15, slice three, 10, and then you look at everything together. The total utility is 45 utils, and this is total utility. We have the marginal utility as another type, and this is the additional utility gained from consuming one more unit. It's the change in total utility from a 1 unit change in quantity. And a formula to calculate that is change in total utility divided by change in quantity. And for example, from Q1, which is 20 ETs and 2, which is 35, it moves down, and you can see that the difference between the Q1 and Q2 is 15 UTILs. So it is actually the marginal utility is 15 UTILs. Another is the law of diminishing marginal utility. And as a consumer consumes more units of a goods, the additional satisfaction, that is the marginal utility from each successive unit declines. So, and for this, what is an economic implication of this? First unit yields highest satisfaction. If I drink a water now, it's the first one I took, the first cup I took actually brings about the real satisfaction, while subsequent ones yield less additional utility or satisfaction. And if I should take another cup of water, it actually might also quench the thirst that I am having to an extent, but the first one, it cannot be um, compared with the first one. So the additional one is results in a decline in satisfaction. So marginal utility can become zero or negative at this point. And in using real life example, just like I have said, drinking water on a hot day, and the first glass is highly satisfying, subsequent glasses provides less satisfaction, eventually leading to discomfort. So if you even take it more, it actually leads to discomfort. So this is law of diminishing marginal utility. And we also need to look into indifference curve and budget constraints. When we talk about that, consumers are faced with various bundles of goods from which they must choose, and given their income and the price of goods. To better understand consumer preferences and how they make choices under constraints, economists use indifference curves and budget line, which is also budget constraints. These tools illustrates consumers' preference and purchasing power, showing how consumers allocate income to maximize satisfaction. And when we talk about the indifferent curves, um, it shows combination of two goods providing the same satisfaction. And downward sloping, it's actually downward sloping, convex, just like you can see in the diagram, in the graph as a diagram. Yeah, it's downward sloping, convex to origin. Higher curves mean higher utility, and they do not interact. You see that they are on their own, they do not interact together, and that is the indifference curve. And for the budget constraints, it shows maximum combination of two goods the consumer can afford given income and price. And uh, this is represented by a budget line. The formula is there, and you can see the diagram also there. The consumer equilibrium, and this is achieved when the highest attainable indifference curve is tangent to the consumer's budget line, representing the optimal combination of goods for maximum satisfaction within budget. And you see at equilibrium, the MRS is equal to the marginal utility of X divided by the marginal utility of Y is equal to the price of X over the price of Y. And what are the conditions for um, consumer equilibrium? And there are two essential conditions for achieving equilibrium under the indifference curve analysis, and these are tangency condition and convexity condition. When we talk about tangency condition, the indifference curve must be tangent to the budget line, ensuring that the MRS equals the price ratio. And when we talk about the convexity condition, the indifference curve must be convex to the origin at tangency, ensuring diversified combination are preferred and utility is maximized. In conclusion, we've been able to understand consumer behavior as a concept very critical in microeconomics analysis, and we've been able to explain how individual maximize satisfaction with limited resources. We've looked into utility and preferences, where we talk about utility, which is total, marginal, and diminishing, quantifying satisfaction, while in different curves illustrate preference and trade-offs. We also look into budget and equilibrium, where we look into budget constraints defines affordability, leading to consumer equilibrium, where utility is maximized within financial limits. And we look at the price effect also, where income and substitution effect um, explains how price change uh, influence changes influence demand for normal, inferior, and given goods. Thank you for listening.